Bastiaan Maris, hello and welcome here in Ptuj. You're in working uniform because we found you in the middle of the making of the constructing process of your sound installation Relator Deluxe here in Micheličeva Galleria. So, can you explain a little bit the idea behind this installation? How did you get up with the idea to wire up the thousands of relays in a sound installation that is very loud?
It's very loud. It's actually hundreds, but still, it's lots of them. It started years ago when I was still living in Amsterdam, and I found these relays. And relays, what they are electromechanical switches. So they are basically, for instance, they're used in elevators. And the elevator has very big motors, so that needs very big cables. Now, if you want to control these, then you need to put very big cables to all the buttons. You need very big buttons. So they use a relay, and a relay is basically a switch, which you can use a very thin cable to activate them. And there's an electromagnetic coil in there, so an electromagnet, and so when you push the button, the magnet becomes magnetized and will pull a part down, which makes a loud noise because it pulls it down, and this will then connect the power for the big cables. And I found a couple of these, and I was looking at them, and then it's like, but they're switches, that means they can switch other relays. So I started thinking and trying out, and I put several together, and basically what I did was I wired them up so that if I would switch the first one, it would switch the next one, this would switch the next one, and switch the next one, but then the last one would switch the first one off. So if that one goes off, then the second one goes off, then the third one goes off, and till the last one goes off, but when the last one is off, it actually reconnects the power. So now you get something like an oscillator. So it starts going like domino, it keeps going. And as I always work with industrial stuff and always been building stuff from old industry, I started collecting these and finding out different ways how to work with them. And I noticed big ones are slower but very powerful, and small ones are very fast. And there's all different ways you can hook them up so the different kind of rhythms start happening. And yeah, that's what became Relator Deluxe over the years.
But where did you collect all these relays? Because they're from different times, aren't they?
Yeah, most of them are actually from before the wall came down. And so I moved when the wall came down to Germany, to Berlin, not to Germany, to Berlin. And I went into a lot of old factories that they closed down, and collected a lot of the old industrial relays, and also I spent time in a lot of old factories and mines because I've been doing theater pieces with people who are specialized in setting up theater in old industrial places. And the first thing I would always do is go and see where the storage is and take out the good stuff to make something, most of the time for the installation right there, for performance or for exhibitions which were happening in old factories and so on. And so I still do this, and I always have a screwdriver or a Leatherman on you, and whenever I find broken down buildings, most of the time everything is gone except for the relays and the switches, because most people have no idea that you can actually make very nice sounding things with it.
Mm-hmm. So there's a touch and smell of past
yes,
in this
totally.
Composition, in this sound installation, yes. Isn't it? And there is also a touch of something, let's say, maybe old and maybe also old-fashioned, because it's working in a very specific way. You have to insert coin.
Yes. Well, I decided to put the whole thing on a coin machine. There's a couple of reasons. The one reason is if you have a coin machine, it's not going to be running all the time, so it won't break down too quick, because it is old, and the way I'm using these relays, you can read on them, and some say they should maybe switch 20 times a minute. and others say maybe 30 times a minute. I'm using it more like 20 times a second, or some of the small ones, or 100 times a minute, or 200. So they do wear out a little bit, so it's good to not use them too much. And the other thing is, because it's an installation which can be enjoyed by a lot of people at the same time, it is good when people, I think, have to have some social interaction with each other, and they have to make it a conscious decision to make it work. And I had the installation up one time in Berlin, and there was these people, and I could hear it wasn't working, and there's all these people there. And then they're talking, it cost €1 or 1 mark at that time, €1. It's like, well, look, there's 50 people here. That's 2 cents per person. What's the problem? And it's like, oh yeah, okay, here, come on, let's do it, and then it works. So people have to interact with it, and not just consume it. You have to actually. It's not about the money. It's about
having concert.
Yeah, exactly. And so you get 2 minutes.
2 minutes concert, but that is not for sensitive ears.
No, it is very loud, and especially if you have kids. People should be warned. We will have quite a few warnings there to either put fingers in their ears, or I'm not sure. I think we're going to be having earplugs for people who have too sensitive ears, but you can always, God gave you fingers to put in your own ears, so that is the easy way to do it.
Why the looks, Bastiaan? Is this the question of hugeness? Is this the question of this very loud noise? Why the looks?
Because you have to pay for it. It's a luxury.
Oh,
It's not something you find on the street. It's a luxury. You know, you have to consciously make the decision to invest a bit of money to have this privilege of being terrorized by this very loud noise.
And you said that this installation is different and it depends from the location.
Yes, because depending on the acoustics and depending on the size and of the location, I'll decide what to put and which ones, and most of the times I make something new for the location here as well. We build one part, it's not even completely finished, it will be finished tomorrow I think, for here. And yeah, the location is important, but the location it's the acoustic space is important. So if there's a very big space, it will use the spatial aspect of a space, and here it's quite dense, so it will be it's quite overpowering. So you have to work with these possibilities. Some people call it limitations, but they're not limitations; they're possibilities.
Have you been installing that? Installing that relator deluxe in bigger galleries, in bigger places, and also in smaller? Yeah. Where would you say there it functions, if I may say, functions better?
Well, I like it when there's, because it's quite loud. I like it actually when the spaces are. When they're large, but also it can be very long corridors when there's a big distance between the sound sources that work together, so that as you walk around through a space, you have a different experience from one corner of the space than from another corner, and you will hear something. It's like, you can see what creates this sound. And most of the time, by the time you then get there, actually something else from where you just were is working, and the other way around. So it invites people to actually move around in the space, and that's what I try to do. Here it's because it's quite a compact space, so here you can experience the whole thing without having to walk around too far, but everyone's invited to go up close. But please don't touch.
Now we will move a little bit to your childhood, because from there resonates or origin all your fascination, all your passion, if I may say, for for different forms of energy and converting this energy. Do you remember from where does it came this fascination, this passion for energy?
Well, I don't know. It's always. First of all, I've always been very interested in. I worked a lot and played a lot with fire and also explosions since I was a very young kid. I remember a friend of my father, I must have been 3 or something, they had some meeting at my parents' place. Of course, I was living there. And they were talking about things. And a friend of my father, who was like, this little kid was going around and it was kind of disturbing him a little bit. So he gave me a box of matches and said, go and play with this. We had a fireplace. So I did, and I have been ever since. And especially with fire, I like for me, the flames themselves, of course, they're beautiful and warm and stuff like this, but this is, for me, is not actually the essence of what's going on. I like to work with flames and explosions in such a way that the sound, if you investigate something, if you look at something, you can kind of see what's going on. But now if you listen to a process, you can actually, it is much deeper in your brain. It's not from the outside. If you listen to something, it goes straight, you actually feel what's going on. And that's always fascinated me. So I've been, through the years, I built a lot of musical instruments that use resonating flames or explosions as sound sources.
Correct, pipe organ.
The largest pipe organ used gas explosions, which I then turned into music. The first time that happened was in Graz, Steirische Herbst, in 90. What was that? I think it was 96, maybe earlier, 94. I actually am not sure at the moment. 90s. But the interesting thing there was that because these were very large pipes, different lengths, all tuned, and fed with propane, and then with the ignition, a spark, to make it explode. And the mixture of air and gas gives you a different kind of explosion. And this woman came by, and we were just testing, and she was like, oh, this is horrible, and it reminds me of when Graz was bombed during the Second World War, and she was thought like, oh, there's another war starting. And I said, well, we're just testing, and I'm very sorry that you feel this way. Please come back in 2 days. We do a concert. And she came back, and afterwards she came to me, and she was like almost crying. She said, this is the first time in my life that this sound was not that it was actually totally beautiful. And for her, these sounds had always been associated with the death and destruction, because for her it was only bombs and explosions, and suddenly it turned into music and turned into something beautiful and changed the whole feeling in her. And this was for me was really beautiful. Yeah, and this is exactly because I have the feeling I discover for myself things that I hear in the flames and in explosions, and to find a way to translate it in such a way that other people can get this same experience and work sometimes.
But you make energy visible.
Yeah, well, visible but audible.
Audible, yes. So little Bastiaan played with matches, with fire, and when he grew older, he's still playing with fire.
Yeah, but now by playing I discovered all this beauty, and the thing is that fire is such a basic thing. This is the most basic thing. I think it is what makes humans, is because the manipulation of fire. We're the only species on this world that actually manipulates fire. There's some beetles that use fire and stuff like this, but we're the only ones who actually make it and cannot do without it. And so even the sound of fire goes straight into like the most primitive part of yourself. And so this is for me, it's a very warm and it's a good medium to work with, because I don't know, it works for me, and so I try to make it work for other people as well.
And you went so far that with your colleague Eddie Eagle, yes, you founded a pyrophonic ensemble in Berlin in 2001. What was the intention of this pyrophonic ensemble? It's an orchestra, in effect.
It's an orchestra. There's 3 people in it, so there's also Jeffrey Funt. He's the only one who actually doesn't really work with fire. He has some fire things as well, but he uses a thing called the bow chime, which is a piece of metal with rods that you bow, and also gives whole choirs come out of it, which gives a very nice high note to the much deeper sounds that we're making. Eddie Gal was always been also a fire artist, or whatever you call it. He built flamethrowers and stuff like this. And when we met already back in the 90s, he would do his flamethrowers to music. I was like, why are you playing this music? And the flames, why don't you make the music with the flames? And they're like, what? Yeah, so let's work together. And then, so this became the Pyrophonic Ensemble, and actually all the sounds are made by different ways of open flames, and then we have the deep sounds. I play the bass, which are the resonating flames in pipes, and we've been we do concerts. So it's really like we do not very long, half an hour concerts or sometimes longer. We were supposed to play here, but because of the whole COVID stuff, it was cancelled. It was not possible. And so maybe next time.
Maybe. Yeah. Bastiaan, if we read your artistic CV or your CV, your biography, there stands you are a chemoacoustic engineer. Yes. What does this title stand for?
Well, it is the chemoacoustic is like the acoustic manifestation of chemical processes. And for me, the chemical process is basically I'm always been very interested in the change from one energy form into the other, and especially with the fire and the explosions, to make this audible, so visible, so you can actually you can experience it through your ears and through your body, because a lot of the sounds are so deep that you feel them more than that you hear them. And so chemoacoustics is basically the acoustic part of this chemical process of energy forms changing from one into the other.
So you are more scientist than artist?
Maybe. I never called myself an artist till other people started doing it, and it's like, okay.
That's why I have asked you, because you have chemoacoustic engineer, but as you mentioned, all these chemical processes. That's why
I didn't study this. Well, I did study this my whole life, but not at any university. I made my own study, so to speak. So, you learn a lot when you work with this a lot.
Bastiaan, this year festival Artstays here in Ptuj is called No More Silence. Is there any place for silence in your work? Because as I saw and as I read, you are more keen on very loud sound and noise.
Yes, well, it's not noise, it's like music.
Music, okay.
No, but what is really beautiful about very loud things is that the moment you take him away, then there is more silence than you've ever heard before. And it sounds very weird, but you experience silence because the noise is gone. And this happens with the relays too. It's very intense because it's loud, and there's electricity flying around and sparks and lights, and then suddenly poof, it ends, and it's a
suddenly silence.
It's this intense silence, which is a little bit broken here with the silence, because there's still some very soft tick 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 click,
yes.
going on, which will always be there.
But what if we relate this no more silence to the everyday situation, to that what is happening in the world now? How would you comment that? No more silence or no more silence? So how would you comment that? If you relate this no more silence with the situation, with also the pandemic situation, with political, sociological context, etc.
Well, I think it's a very well chosen title, because it is definitely time that people speak up and don't. The thing is that as long as everybody is provided for, and it's very hard to say anything against it, but it seems to not work, and it's getting more clear and clear that just by trying to shut everyone up, it's like, no, you're fine, you have food, so shut up, or like this is over. It's clear that the way the world is ruled at the moment, it's not working, and I'm very glad that a lot of the younger generations who are now in their early 20s don't take this bullshit anymore and try to do something about it. Still not enough, but there's hope. So I hope that things will change, and also with the pandemic and just the right-wing governments which have been picking up over the last 8 years everywhere, Europe, America, South America, Brazil. I mean, everywhere you look, it's this, it's good when humanity becomes a little bit more humane again, and not in the hands of a few people who have so much money that they can buy themselves out of all the trouble and don't have to care about it. And No More Silence is a good title, although I am not very political in my work. It's not that I don't care about politics, I do, but maybe I'm too what do you call it? I'm just with my own thing. It's like, oh, I discovered this and I like to share this with everyone. But I work with a project in Berlin. I live in Berlin. And we have a project at the moment there with a lot of, it's like a mini container village, and there's a lot of people there, and the average age is, I think, most people are between 20 and 30, and there's very good energy coming out of these young people, and it's very positive to see that there's actually quite a lot of energy coming from them, and people don't take anything for granted. They have tried to figure it out themselves and find better ways to live. And I hope that's gonna resonate into the rest of the world.
Would you say that the lockdown was creative for you, or not at all?
Not really. Sometimes yes, and sometimes not, because I don't work where I live, and so where I work I couldn't be very much, and so at home I can do little things, and I've had some ideas, and I've been working on a different project, but I need to move around to do my stuff. I need to go into build old factories. I need to talk to people, collect materials, work with people, and so it's been hard sometimes, but we'll survive.
Good. Bastiaan Maris, thank you very much for this nice interview. I wish you good luck and a lot of creativity, and be careful when playing with fire.
Yes, and with electricity.
Yes, and with electricity, yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, you're welcome.